For more on this story, we can bring in our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, good to see you back fresh from the G7 summit. Talk us through what is in this deal exactly.
Right. Well, if you look at the fine print, it's quite interesting that there's not an awful lot in favour of the United States. I'll go through a couple of the points we've just been hearing about in that report. First of all, on the Strait of Hormuz, this is going to be reopen the end of the US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Remember that before the war started on the 20th of February, the Strait of Hormuz was open and free to shipping going through a fifth of the world's oil exports. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is going to be open and free for the next 60 days. We don't know whether that means that Iran afterwards will be able to impose some kind of taxes, tolls on shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz and to make money on the back of that shipping. And the second point, which is important to underline, is that Iran has seen that with the Strait of Hormuz, it has a secret weapon which is much more powerful than, in fact, a nuclear weapon, that it can close the Strait of Hormuz and cause turmoil on the international market, something that it has never done before, because it realizes that neither Israel nor the United States can stop it from doing that. This is something that, of course, Iran would have never have done before the start of this war on the 28th of February. Okay, the wavering of sanctions on oil exports. With the new deal, Iran will be able to sell even more oil in the future than it actually did before. It had $45 billion worth of oil sales last year, but they were mostly to China, and a lot of them secretly done to avoid sanctions. Those sanctions are now gone. Will open up the market to Iran selling even more oil in the future. And a couple of points on the nuclear deal. Donald Trump has said all the way down the line that Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. Well, Iran has pledged since the start of the revolution in 1979 it won't have a nuclear bomb. There was a fatwa issued against nuclear weapons by the former Ayatollah Khamenei, and that was also part of the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action signed by Barack Obama in 2015, that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon. So there's nothing really new in this agreement on that wasn't already had already been decided beforehand. And one other point which is interesting to underline is that there is this $300 billion fund for reconstruction of Iran's war damages, but in fact the US is not going to put any money into that. It's going to come from the Gulf nations. Will they want to pay this money to Iran when Iran has caused so much damage in those Gulf nations as a result of this war, firing missiles in there and causing damage to Gulf state oil depots?
So, with every deal, Philip, there are losers and there are winners. Talk us through what's happening in this case.
Right. Well, I think no one can say the United States is coming out of this as the supreme winner. Donald Trump misjudged the Iranian response to this war. He thought it was going to get rid of the regime really quickly. Neither he nor Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, gathered that this was going to be a war that would go on as long as this. It was going to be a three-day war like the one which got rid of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. It hasn't been like that. It was badly organized. It was in defiance of international law. So Donald Trump is really on his own in all of this. He hasn't managed to obtain what he wanted to do at the start, which was complete regime change in Iran. Remember, he was saying, rise up, the time has come now to change the regime. Now he's saying, well, I like the new members of the regime. They're guys I can get on with. I think definitely the winner in all of this is Iran, as we've just been saying. Iran has got more money available. It has it's able to use the Strait of Hormuz to blockade shipping when it wants to now. It's not particularly scared of the US and Israel. Iran has underlined in all of this or realized that neither Israel nor the United States, it's been preparing for 47 years for a possible conflict with the US. It realizes now that when that conflict does happen, well, the US doesn't have the means to be able to get rid of the regime. There's a 60-day period, and I'll finish on this note. There's a 60-day period which has now begun for the negotiations of this memorandum of understanding. That 60-day period can be prolonged if necessary. I think what Iran is doing here is going to play for time. It's been playing for time all the way down the line. It's going to carry on playing for time this time around because it knows that Donald Trump is not eternal. He knows the Trump administration is not going to be around forever. If it can play this out with all these concessions that it's received, it will be largely more strong and will have won far more than it would have done had there not been the war declared by Donald Trump and Benjamin